everybody. Welcome to the fourth Film Buds bonus show. And this time around, we're going to be talking about the DC Cinematic Universe. We're going to be starting with Man of Steel in 2013, and we're going to be working all the way up to Shazam, which just came out in April of 2019. And so we'll be talking about Justice League, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and did I say Justice League? Yeah. And yeah, so first off, my name is Henry, and Chloe is not with us this time around, but joining me are two special guests. And the first with me here in the studio is our good buddy, Jacob Bowers.
Hello.
Or Jacob number one, as he's also known on the show. And then joining us for, I guess, after about a 2-year hiatus over Skype is our friend from college, Paul Davis. So, Paul, thanks for coming back on the show, man. And yeah, so
thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. And so it's going to be, I think, whether or not if you've seen every single one of these movies or if you haven't seen a single one, I think it's going to be a good talk. I think we all have some pretty differing opinions, more or less. And yeah, so I think it's going to be a really good talk. And so thank you so much for downloading and for donating. You know, all the funds go to help support the show. And so we really, really appreciate it. And make sure to check out our regular podcast on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn if you haven't already. But yeah, so well, Paul, it's been about 2 years since you and I have talked, I guess, face to face. So how's everything going, man?
Pretty good. You know, I've just been doing my thing, trying to keep up with all of the content that's out there now. I mean, I feel like just in the last 2 years alone, there's been like a real uptick in digital streaming services providing quality films that are actually worth watching. So now I feel like I have to work twice as hard to keep up with everything that's out there. But doing my best.
Yeah.
I'm a little late on Shazam. Caught that one this afternoon.
Yeah, same here. And I guess we should say, I am still kind of getting the Skype audio as best or sounding as good as possible. And so sorry if there's a little bit of unevenness, but I think for the most part it should be okay. But bear with us, everybody, if you haven't, or if you get a little annoyed by that. But yeah, well, Jacob, what about you, man? You're what are you doing?
Pretty much just the same, working, just consuming, just all consuming, just the media all the time.
Yeah.
The movies and the TV and the video games
and
the music.
And
just a lot of it today.
Oh, for sure.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, well, I guess, although, I mean, we won't be really talking about it specifically this time around, both of you have seen Avengers Endgame, the latest Marvel flick. Y'all have fun with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got my Mondo glass with me right here.
Oh, sick. All right, cool.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it opening night, but I saw it last night. And, the theater was still sold out. Me and my friend got the last 2 seats available, but it was actually the theater, like not like the theater we were in, but the theater itself was not really that busy. So it was, it wasn't crazy,
Yeah.
It's the first Marvel movie since Iron Man I haven't seen opening night.
Oh, really? Well,
but it's just because it was sold out.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I tried, but those tickets sold out so fast.
Yeah, we were talking about on the regular show, AMC theaters were asking this weekend for some locations to stay open 72 hours straight. Yeah. And so, like, I checked at the local AMC theater, and there was showings at like 2:30 in the morning there, and so it's pretty crazy, the box office. But anyways, going back to DC, so I guess we can just start off by maybe our first impressions or our maybe background with the films or anything like that. So, Paul, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I started my first like comic book movies growing up were obviously like the old Batman movies, and growing up I watched the Justice League cartoons. And I remember those like first 2 teaser trailers for Man of Steel, the one narrated by Kevin Costner and the one narrated by Russell Crowe. and I was like, holy shit, this is gonna like blow open. This is gonna be like the best Superman movie ever.
Yeah.
And then we saw it, and it's no Superman Returns.
Sure.
But it also is no Superman 2. And for me, it's been kind of a mixed bag. You know, I thought Suicide Squad was my least favorite, and then I spent $18 last night to watch Justice League.
Ooh.
I wanted to die.
Yeah, that's fair, man. That's fair. Yeah. Well, Jacob, what about you? Was Man of Steel the first one you saw of the cinematic universe?
Yeah. I also grew up watching Justice League cartoons and, Batman the Brave and the Bold and all these different things. And I, I grew up being a fan of DC and Marvel. I didn't have one over the other. I guess I always like kind of favored Marvel, but I was just a comic book fan in general. And, what year did Man of Steel come out?
2013.
And was that before Iron Man? Or
for the first one?
Before the first Iron Man?
Oh, Iron Man was in, 2008, Paul?
Yeah.
So it was a while after Marvel had started,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've seen every DC movie opening night or opening day except for Justice League and Aquaman. I didn't even go to the theater to see Aquaman because by that point I was just over it.
Yeah.
But
you're done.
I saw Justice League like a week later after it came out, and it was we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, give it time, man. Give it time.
But yeah, I followed DC just as closely as I followed Marvel because I was like, as a comic book fan, I feel like I should give these a chance. But then it just, just Marvel's up with a few missteps, and DC's just down,
down,
few
man.
up steps, and it's just as a fan, it was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, Man of Steel was the first one I saw as well. I mean, I've talked about it with Paul. I'm a bit of a DC defender, so to speak, but I do agree that Marvel has really surpassed them in pretty much every way. But I still am very interested to what they're going to be doing next, and I think that I think Joker and Birds of Prey are two I'm really looking forward to. And so it's kind of hard to predict how it's going to turn out to be, but they're, we'll get to it, right? We'll get to it. Yeah.
Was Man of Steel really in 2013?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. 1 year after Avengers.
I was 17 when Man of Steel came out, I guess.
Jacob, were we ever so young?
I was 13 when Iron Man came out,
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, cool. I guess with all that said, I guess we can just go ahead and jump right in, right?
Right in.
And so I guess we can start off with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. And so, like we said, this one was released in 2013 and stars Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, Lawrence Fishburne. The scores by the great Hans Zimmer, right? And this one grossed $668 million against a budget of $225 million, and received kind of mixed reviews. Not awful reviews, but it was kind of in the middle for a lot of people.
Zack Snyder, what a guy!
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, well, there's your answer from Paul. So, all right, well. Who wants to start us off? Were y'all fans of this originally? Are you not fans of it? What's the deal?
Why don't you start us off, Paul?
All right. I went and I saw it opening night, and I had decently high expectations for it. It wasn't like a Green Lantern situation a few years before where every trailer I saw just was like a deeper and deeper pit in my stomach. So I went into it pretty excited. And actually, I guess looking back, it's probably not the unmitigated disaster that I think that it gets painted as. But once we get into once we really get into that finale, the thing really comes apart. The wheels fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
I think it could have stabled itself a little bit more during that final act, but it it never quite gets there.
Mm.
I think Cavill's a pretty solid Superman. It's just that I think that he ended up sort of getting hobbled by a bunch of bad scripts and a few bad decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the problems of the DCEU definitely have like their root in Man of Steel, even if they're not taken all the way to like their worst potential.
Yeah. And so this one, I guess we should say this one was executive produced by Christopher Nolan, who of course did the Dark Knight trilogy. But yeah, so what about you, Jacob? Where do you sit on this one?
I remember it being a little dull, comparatively to some of the other DC movies that I've seen by this point. But yeah, definitely better than Green Lantern, even though that's not really in the universe. But
I thought you loved Green Lantern. No, I'm kidding.
I like Green Lantern the character, but I think my friend and I almost got kicked out of the theater because he was laughing so loud at Green Lantern, just disturbing everyone.
Sure.
But yeah, Man of Steel. I remember Michael Shannon, brilliant actor. He really brought General Zod to the screen and was really a very strong part of that movie. Amy Adams, not a great Lois Lane, in my opinion. Henry Cavill, yeah, pretty solid Superman. And a fun fact, I believe Brandon Routh played Superman in was it like Superman 2?
Superman Returns, yeah.
Superman Returns, yeah, and he starred in Chuck with Zachary Levi, who is now Shazam.
Oh, really? Well, fun little tie in there.
Yeah. But yeah, just remember it being kind of gray.
It is gray.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Big and bright and primary colored.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I mean, I think the movie's pretty good. I agree it's flawed, but I love the first hour and a half. I love the origin. I love just how it plays out. But I agree the third act is just brutal after a little while. Although, I mean, at times I am just kind of a sucker for it. I don't mind watching a city being destroyed. You know, who doesn't like that? But after a while where it's just smash after smash, it's a little much. But
destroying that IHOP.
Love that scene. Love that scene. Yeah. But I about Lois Lane. So I didn't mind Amy Adams. I think it's more so just the writing I think
she
her
says tinkle.
Right. Great line. But yes, it's I think both in this and in Justice League and in Batman v Superman as well, she's essentially serving the plot, not really the character at all. And so I think she kind of feels a bit thrown in and a bit of a throwaway in that case. But I love, again, like I think the score is incredible. I think that's much better than most Marvel scores, which isn't really saying that much, I guess. But I think it really does add a lot of epicness to the film. And I do like Henry Cavill a lot. I think Michael Shannon is amazing as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The Death of Zod's probably like my biggest disappointment, because I feel like you could have used Zod and his little band of collaborators. Had you just banished them to the negative zone, as they so often did, I actually think that you could have had a really great Loki situation moving forward, where you had this really great actor with a really compelling villain that could have been something more later on, and it's like, no.
Yeah,
pop that neck like a chicken bone.
He's done. He's done. But yeah, I agree. And I don't mind although it's a little extended, I don't mind the opening on Krypton. I kind of like how it's like a 15 or 20 minute long sequence. I like visually, I think that looks great. One little character in this, I think it's more so just the performance, but the girl who plays Michael Shannon's like partner, the young woman, I think she's great in it. Yeah. And I don't know if she's gone on to do anything else, but she's a cool little memorable character, of a character that's not really given that much. But and so I think there are some lulls for sure. I mean, it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And so, I mean, it's definitely feels a little extended. And I agree, the script is hit and miss. I mean, it's written by David S. Goyer, who did I guess he co-wrote some of the Dark Knight trilogy, didn't he?
He co-wrote, I think, Begins, and maybe did some story elements on Dark Knight. Didn't he also do that horror movie, The Unborn?
Sounds like him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something I will give the DC movies over the Marvel movies is they've got good villains. Pretty much until Thanos, Marvel had kind of like a villain issue, but DC, whenever they pick their villains, they do it well. They cast them well. They integrate the story well. Suicide Squad and Green Lantern, maybe, I don't know. I know I keep
not
bringing
so
up
much.
Green Lantern, but
Yeah.
not so much. But but for the most part, I think that they do a good job with the choicing there, and then
Yeah, well, in terms of Marvel, I actually think that the Winter Soldier in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is their best villain. How are we feeling about that one?
I think they've had a handful of solid ones. They definitely have not all been winners for me. Even though he's not a great villain, I just think he's great around the film. He almost steals the movie for me, honestly, is Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's mostly just because Sam Rockwell plays him like such a wonderful bumbling idiot. Like, he really...
Yeah.
He hits the right notes for me. But, I think Killmonger was a great one for them. The Winter Soldier was solid. Thanos, of course. I like Ego, but again, maybe that's more just that I enjoy Kurt Russell, and I think that he gives it a lot of... I think that he gives it probably more than it actually has in the context of the film. So I think that they've had a handful. Comparatively to like DC films, I think Zod was a real winner. I was not a fan of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor.
No.
And then we get good old Steppenwolf.
Oh, yeah. Great villain.
Yeah, tremendous. What a powerhouse. What a performance.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I would agree with you, Jake. Yeah, I think DC, that's one of the reasons I like DC is because I think the villains are pretty strong.
maybe I just had like Heath Ledger on the brain or something. I wasn't thinking about Jesse Eisenberg and
right.
Steppenwolf.
We'll get to Jesse.
Magic Carpet Ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think Michael Shannon's, the look of his character, I think how he interacts with Superman in particular is great. And I think he does add some weight and some very memorable sequences, I think. And what do you think of Russell Crowe? I mean, he's not in it that much, but
I do not remember.
I mean, he's fine.
I don't. Who was he?
He's Superman's father.
Oh, the whole Superman's or like his adopted father?
The
like Kryptonian,
his true father.
True father. Yeah, I don't remember.
Jor-El.
Yeah,
because he's Kal-El, so it's Jor-El.
Right.
I was thinking of like his human father in the dust storm.
Great scene. Oh, I love the. Okay, I let's get to that. So
the tornado.
I think it's ridiculous, but the tornado scene in Man of Steel, I think, is great. And it's even though Kevin Costner, puts up his hand. I think it's great. I think because that's one of the few like really emotional moments of the movie. I think, and maybe it's more so just the performance. I mean, obviously, it's a ridiculous situation, but I think it works.
I just remember all these memes people were making of like his dog putting his paw up.
Yeah, so I mean, there are definitely some standout scenes for sure, but I mean, even in terms of the third act, there are parts of it I like. Like I like the IHOP destruction. That's great.
Oh yeah.
But after a while, you're just like, get me out of here.
Yeah,
well,
definitely. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they at least acknowledge that. In BVS, where most of the world is like Superman's a villain, he's destroyed everything.
Right.
They make it part of the story that Superman has no regard for collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Go ahead, Paul. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. For me, I think I definitely prefer the Battle of Smallville to the Battle of Metropolis. I think that Man of Steel I think that the big issue that like gets Man of Steel maligned is that he does do a lot of damage, does do a lot of destruction, and like Jacob was saying, you know, Batman versus Superman picked that up and used that. But I think the problem is like they never really take that, and maybe I'm getting a little cart before the horse, but oh well. They never really like take the step of making Superman feel like Superman. So I feel like you could have used Man of Steel as a really great building block of him like taking on all of the sort of codes and stances that Superman has, and then catapulting from the traumatic experience that sort of is his arc in Man of Steel, and made him like, you know, the big bright beacon of hope that he doesn't quite feel like in Man of Steel, because I'm not sure that he even thinks that he's really there yet.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really the big issue, is just that people did want him to immediately start there as the perfect beacon of hope, and he just wasn't that. But I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like how he's presented in this, and so, but I agree. I could see how some people would not.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, like I know a few Superman fans that are like, "That's not Superman," and I'm like, maybe not yet, but you know, he could be.
Yeah.
And then he is not. Like, as we move forward, he is.
Yeah.
He is not still.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the next one.
Yeah.
Something that I think the DC films suffer from is when you look at Marvel, Iron Man has been, like, Robert Downey Jr. has been Iron Man for 11 years. But we're recasting the DCU constantly. You know, like, Henry Cavill has said, I will never be Superman again. Now he's like, maybe I will. Ben Affleck's like, I'm done. You know, like, it's just, it suffers because there's no consistency.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, and a lot of that is on the studio. I think it just, there's so many rewrites, there's so many changes of directors and this and that it's just, I think the actors in particular just get tired of it. I would,
They're just fumbling, just trying to catch up to their counterpart, and they just 2 steps forward, 5 steps back.
I mean, because Ben Affleck was supposed to do the Batman solo movie, but now he's dropped out, and they're going to recast Batman as well. And although it is being directed by Matt Reeves, who did the Planet of the Apes movie, so I'm in for that. But I agree, there are some issues for sure.
Ben Affleck was going to direct, star, and write, wasn't he?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think they had done some drafts and other things like that, but it went kaput.
Jared Leto was supposed to be there too, right?
I don't know if he was going to be in that one or not, but I think he's coming back for something. Paul, do you know if your favorite favorite actor Leto is coming back?
I don't know. I mean, right now he's busy with Morbius. I think that he's supposed to do something with Harley Quinn, but at this point, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, everything that they're doing right now is kind of up in the air. They still haven't landed on a Flash movie yet. You know.
Well, now
rewrites of that script there's been.
Yeah, well, now Ezra Miller is co-writing that. So
that's a terrible decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Who knows what's going on with Cyborg? I don't even know that actor's name.
I don't either.
Ray Fisher.
He's in Justice League.
Briefly,
I think
he's the worst.
I don't know. It's just
he's in the email scene, in the infamous email scene of BVS. Is our first look at Ray Fisher as
I love the email scene, but we'll get to that.
Getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Let's hold off. But
dial it back to MOS.
But Man of Steel. I mean, I definitely don't think it's a masterpiece, but I would rather watch this than, I mean, not every Marvel movie, but I think it's at least on par with a lot of them personally. Although I agree that there are some issues with it, or noticeable issues. But well, anything else about Man of Steel y'all want to mention?
You know, I think that for people that like grew up with the MCU, it's a little bit like rose-tinted glass when we think back to those early days. And I'm certainly not saying that like Iron Man's a terrible movie, but that is not a perfect start. You know, that's not a tremendous kickoff to something that would go on to be this.
Right.
And I think that Man of Steel could have been that had it been picked up and carried a little bit better. It's not a perfect start, but it could have started a lot worse. I'm talking to you, Dark Universe, and The Mummy.
Oh, we talked about The Mummy.
Yeah. We just talked about The Mummy on the regular show a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was something.
Huge fan.
Yeah, so it wasn't that big of a bad start.
Yeah.
There was a lot that could have been picked up and worked with, but you know, it is what it is at this point.
Mm.
I mean, when you think about it, the 11-year franchise that is the MCU was kind of a fluke, really. You know, like it was incredible that Robert Downey Jr. was ever hired to be someone as big as Iron Man, considering who he was at that point and his sort of troubled past and troubled life.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it succeeded so much and just went on to build and build, but it's just crazy.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah, I mean, I think whether you like them or not, it is pretty impressive what Marvel has pulled off. You know, even if you hate every single movie, it's still so well thought out. Whether that was all intentional or not, it really comes across as very great planning, kind of years in advance. And so I think they've, obviously with Endgame, they're kind of hit the jackpot. So
it's the end game.
It is, yeah. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to do next. But
I think that DC could have reached Marvel's heights if, like, Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy was like the bait. Like if they had tried to build the universe off of that instead of putting that in its own separate corner. Like if they had managed to keep Christian Bale as Batman and introduce like Henry Cavill or something to that universe and sort of built it, because that's such a good base to have, you know,
for sure,
you know, but instead
they didn't.
The Chris Nolan Batman trilogy exists as its own really good thing, and then you know, Tom Hardy, Bane, Captain Boomerang, right?
No, that's
Jai Courtney.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was supposed to be.
My bad. But yeah.
Get your facts straight.
It's Australian, and they're both Australian.
Wait, no, Tom Hardy's English.
No.
Are you sure? Look it up. Somebody look it up.
I was just gonna stop while I'm ahead. I'm not really ahead, but you know.
And I'll throw out one more thing before we get too much deeper
English actor.
Okay. Before we get too much deeper into it, for anyone, you know, listening that's deeply bothered by the comparisons to Marvel, I really don't think that it's kind of escapable when we're talking about a cinematic universe in an attempt to build one, because there really only is one successful cinematic universe that you can possibly compare any attempt at a cinematic universe to.
Plus, the DC and Marvel have been being compared since both of their inceptions. You know, DC, Marvel, back in the 50s when people were reading comics, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not compare them. I mean, they're two huge entities. They are both. They're completely 100% individual things. But you know, when like the studios behind DC and the studios behind Marvel are clearly trying to compete. You know, it's like, you know, so you have to compare it. It's not like they're trying to be separate. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Anything else about Man of Steel? Anybody?
No.
Love that tornado scene, right?
Yeah.
But all right, well, cool. Well, out of 5 stars, what are you guys going to give it? I'll go 4. Heavy 4.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Swinging big.
Yeah. Just wait till we get to these next few. But
3.
3?
3.
You hate these movies.
From what I remember. Anyways, wait till we get to Aquaman.
Okay. What about you, Paul?
I'd say like 3. Can I do decimals? Because I'd like to say like 3.25, so that way for people that like me, like a 10-point scale, it becomes a 6.5. Which
okay. Oh yeah, you and Sky Tilly, who's on the show, y'all do the 10-point. Oh god.
Yeah, always the 10.
All right. Well, cool. All right. So moving on to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, released in 2016. And so this one is also directed by Zack Snyder and stars Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Jesse Eisenberg, Jeremy Irons, Holly Hunter, Gal Gadot, and the score is once again by Hans Zimmer, but also in part by Junkie XL, who did the Mad Max Fury Road score. And it, against a budget of 250 to 300 million, it grossed 673.8 million. So obviously that's a lot of money, but in terms of the budget and marketing, that's not the best return, I would think.
I think with marketing and reshoots, they actually ended up like slightly in the red on it.
Eesh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this one, the reviews were not great, I would say, to put it delicately. But I think in terms of fans, I mean, we'll get to it, but I like it. And I know there's a lot of people who I've seen online who do like it, but also there are a ton of people who really disliked it. And I think we're all kind of at various spots on this one. So what do y'all think of, and first of all, have y'all seen the extended cut of this movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. Yes, I haven't. So I guess we can.
But I don't worry about talking about it in depth.
Oh yeah,
just because I'd like to know how it compares. And
yeah, well,
it wastes Jenna Malone. That's the biggest.
That's fair. That's the biggest defense of this whole movie. But all right, well, cool. Where do y'all sit on this one, Paul?
I love Batfleck. I was really on board with the Ben Affleck casting, like from day one. Because I've really enjoyed his career as a director, and I enjoyed his turn in like The Town, and so I was really on board with Ben Affleck being Batman, and with the idea of him being like an older, meaner sort of Batman. I was really on board with that, and I'm not even opposed to him being a killing Batman. But I think that the movie really comes apart because they never come up with like a hard stance that Superman is really taking, other than I don't like Batman. Like, I don't feel like he really has any sort of leg to stand on in his argument against Batman, since in that opening scene you see him just absolutely waste a dude by tackling through like 8 walls.
Right.
So I don't really feel like Superman has too much of a leg here. And I think that's where the movie really, really comes apart for me. They're battling each other, feels contrived. How it comes to an end is one of the worst plot moments ever.
Yeah.
And it just feels very, very dense, and I know that it's a very long movie. It's like over 2.5 hours, and then you get the extended cut, and doesn't the extended cut crack 3?
It's 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously it's a long movie, but even for it being a long movie, it just feels at times more like a slog than like a really, really rich, long experience. And so that's kind of my overview of it. And Jesse Eisenberg's terrible. That's
for sure. I mean, it's kind of hard to debate, but okay, well, I guess I'll jump in. So, I mean, even when I saw this in the theater, I saw the flaws, but I enjoyed it. I felt like it was ambitious, and I think it's a mess, but to me, it's a pretty interesting mess. I think that there are some pretty glaring flaws, like obviously Jesse Eisenberg is so miscast, and also just the writing for his character is brutal. Like there's the scene on there's that scene on the helipad towards the end where he's talking to Superman, and he pulls out his pocket watch, and he's like, "When we started talking, we had an hour to save your mother. Now we have less." It's just like these like brutal like lines that is like coming out of a like 16-year-old teen, and it's just it's not good. And like the 3-syllable word for this, that, and that, it's just not good writing either. And so that fails like completely. But I really like Ben Affleck. I like the look of Batman in this as well. And I also like in this how there's not really a hero to root for, kind of. I mean, both have their reasons, although it's pretty weak for the most part. But I like how they're both kind of in their kind of darkest spots or very low points in their life. And so that you kind of don't necessarily love either of them. And so you're just trying to see how it plays out, which obviously not great. But I think the extended cut I like, and that to me does add a bit of richness to it that the theatrical cut lacks at times. But I love the score by Hans Zimmer. I really like Wonder Woman in it, although obviously she's just shoehorned in for the most part to set up Justice League and Wonder Woman. But yeah. So, what about you, Jacob?
Well, I remember I saw this one in theaters as well, and I remember when I went to see it, I liked it. The friend I was with, who I see every DC and Marvel movie with, he hated it. But I remember I liked it. I thought it was all right because I'm as a comic book fan and sort of an action movie fan, I'm a little easy to please. And when I heard of Batman v Superman, I had read that original run when I was younger, and I was really excited about that. I can watch heroes beat up villains all day, but when heroes are beating up heroes, it just adds an extra layer of interest for me. And I was like, I was excited because I was also like, Superman can't be beaten. I'm curious to see how this is gonna go. Like, what's Batman gonna do and
Martha gets in the way, right?
Just a couple other things to throw out there that I like. I like Jeremy Irons as Alfred. It's like young, ripped Alfred, and I do like Gal Gadot in it. I like that one scene where Batman's got the kryptonite and he's like punching Superman, but then he slowly like steals his face, and then he's just that was cool.
He's like, oh shit,
and Jesse Eisenberg. I like Jesse Eisenberg. I do not like Jesse Eisenberg in this movie.
No.
I think if I went and I was allowed to have a detailed several hours long interview with every actor, writer, director, and casting director on this movie, I still wouldn't understand why Jesse Eisenberg was selected for this movie.
Yeah.
It's just, Lex Luthor is a powerful, genius businessman. Not Jesse Eisenberg trying to play the Joker or whatever.
Yeah, the Riddler almost. Yeah,
and he just doesn't look like him. In the post-credits scene, he's bald, but like, then they never bring him back. And they probably aren't going to bring him back.
No,
it's just I don't know.
Great bald look, right?
Leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah,
and the urine bomb is
Oh, Granny's peach tea.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't bad, but go ahead.
It's interesting that you mentioned Riddler Joker, because if I'm not mistaken, early drafts of the script, it's another Goyer script.
Although this one is co-written by the guy who did Argo as well.
Yeah, he wrote some of the Batman stuff. Early drafts of the script, it was Riddler and Joker in like various versions, and so it definitely does feel like they just took. Like, if you really look at that, like on the helipad scene, I think especially how he's acting, he feels a lot more Riddler-esque, and especially with the red hair and the overall aesthetic choices, he does almost feel like. I have even bought if they were like, "Oh, Riddler is faking that he's Lex Luthor's son." Like, I could have probably still sat better with that than trying to pass off. We'll just find and replace the word Riddler with Lex Luthor, and that'll be fine enough.
Yeah.
So it's just it feels like sloppy writing that didn't want to actually rework the script so much as take what they sort of repurpose it as quickly as they can.
Yeah.
And I think that you can tell where the studio's priorities are. And maybe some of the problem, like we talked about earlier, is the studio having different expectations, because I think that you can tell where the studio's interests are in the title, Dawn of Justice,
Yeah.
They're not at all looking at, like, how do we make this really, really good take on, like, one of the classic stories. They're like, how do we kick the ball down the road a little bit further to get to Justice League, which we're going to try and do as movie number 4.
Yeah.
And also, it's a shame because Batman vs Superman and like The Dark Knight Returns are two of like the most classic comic book stories from the DC canon. And then they also decide to do the death of Superman in the whole thing as well. So it's like these three different iconic stories that all kind of end up getting half baked and then like chopped up and mixed into a weird bowl.
Yeah.
That's a grab bag of good and bad.
Yeah, well, Paul, if there's not the death of Superman, you don't get the dirt rising off the coffin as the little end teaser.
It doesn't even matter because then he gets thrown into the goop pool. But I'm not getting.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
This is something that Henry and I were talking about before we came on. This is something that DC likes to do a lot, and it suffers from trying to put multiple villains into its movies. And you've got Doomsday in this movie, who's really cool, and then you've got Lex Luthor doing whatever, birthing Doomsday, I guess. But
yeah,
it's like Aquaman does it, Wonder Woman does it, I think,
to an extent.
To an extent, yeah. And then
I mean, Suicide Squad even to a certain degree.
Well, yeah,
as well.
That's like Villain Avengers or whatever. But
yeah, well, I mean, in terms of who they're fighting against, I mean,
yeah. So and it's like, why? Just pick one and focus on it.
I don't know. No one seems to learn that Spider-Man 3 happened, and they just continue to kind of do the
because I mean, you look at all the
issues. So.
You look at all the previous really old Batman movies too, and I think each one of those had like two villains in it, right?
Well, but yeah, Batman Returns had
it's like
had Catwoman and had
Penguin,
and then
you've got Riddler in.
Oh, sweet Lord.
Jim Carrey Riddler.
Great one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand how much ground they're trying to cover and they're trying to put all the fan service in, but it's like, there's time. There's time to take it easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because what should have happened, in my opinion, is they should have done Man of Steel, Affleck's Batman solo movie, then Batman v Superman. So that way you have a setup for both characters going into this, and you kind of have more of a feeling of kind of knowing them and feeling for them. Whereas
that's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Avengers was already out.
That's true.
They gotta catch up.
Yeah. 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 And so it does feel a little like way too quick in terms of what you're actually seeing in this movie as in comparison to what you've seen before. Especially if you look at something like the Avengers and having had like at least 3 or 4 Marvel movies before that. But
DC's just late to the party.
Yeah, for sure.
Christopher Nolan, kicked it off early, but then they just abandoned it.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and I'm trying to think of some scenes in this. Okay, well, we did talk about the email scene. Actually, maybe it's just because you get that cool score going on in there. And you get that little Wonder Woman guitar riff. Or I guess that's maybe towards the end. But I actually don't mind that the setting up of the characters where she's like, kind of looking blank at the screen and or blankly at the screen and seeing all the different people. I don't mind that. And then, I guess one thing is the dream sequence. I love the dream sequence in this. Just
the
like
useless dream sequence.
Yes, I love it. And so it's like, I think visually that's one of the best things DC has done. I love the desert apocalypse. I love how Batman looks in that.
Oh yeah.
And so I wish there was just more of that. Whether it had a reason to be in there or not, I'm glad it is in there.
Yeah, I remember people thought that from early trailers that was meant to be like a dark side or something, but then he sort of never shows up.
Yeah, but then, although to be fair, afterwards you do get that brutal Flash, like Lois is the key thing, which is
like the dream within the dream thing.
Yeah, which is it's pretty bad.
I was wondering when we first see the Flash. Technically, it's in that movie, but we meet him in Justice League.
Yeah, and he's also in Suicide Squad, very very briefly.
And Justice League, he's watching Rick and Morty.
Oh, is he? Oh, nice.
On one of his TVs.
Well, that's okay.
Watching everything at once.
Yeah. But yeah, what are some other things about this
I feel like Lois is arguably even more wasted in this one. Her whole bullet investigation subplot
Terrible.
just sort of amounts to nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know where it goes. I don't know why it goes, but it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just given that so she can have something to do in it other than cry over Superman.
Oh, right. We need Lois to do something. What are we going to have her do?
Yeah, and she just starts pestering all the politicians about, I have this bullet,
I also did like Ben Affleck as Batman. And I think Wonder Woman's interjection at the end, where she comes in to interrupt their
That's where you
fight,
get that guitar riff.
help them fight Doomsday. I was like, well, this is sort of just, because she's just cooler than both of them. So it just kind of like steals the scene almost, and
yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I think I still like this movie.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, like I said, there are noticeable flaws, but I enjoy watching this one, and I just maybe just from scene to scene or the performances, I don't know, but I enjoy watching this one a lot more than I have other comic book movies in its kind of same vein or same level.
I remember a scene where like Batman's at a party and he's and like Superman's also at that party and he's trying to like sneak down somewhere and he's got Alfred in his ear, and they've made a point from Man of Steel through this to show over and over again that Superman has this like super hearing, but he doesn't hear Alfred speaking in Batman's ear, and I thought that was a weird plot hole.
That party scene I think is kind of interesting. I enjoy Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but I almost feel like during that party scene, it's kind of nebulous that we're dealing with Wonder Woman. It doesn't quite feel like Diana, especially as she gets characterized in like other films. And I sometimes wonder if it's maybe just that David Goyer kind of has open contempt for comic books as a form,
right?
And comic book characters, which is why we sometimes get these weird moments where certain characters, it's like, do we consider that to be like a good version of who this character is in this moment? Her arrival at the end is great. A highlight scene for me in terms of action is obviously the Batman attack on Lex Luthor's captors around Martha. The what is it, like a warehouse?
Yeah, where he does
warehouse.
He stabs people and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and he violently murders off screen.
Yes. Although in terms of action, I will say I absolutely love the opening sequence where you're watching Man of Steel, but from Batman's perspective.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that sequence. When that happened, and the first time I saw it, I was like, I'm going 5 out of 5 on this thing. But yeah, I agree that the warehouse fight is great as well.
I really enjoyed the fight against Doomsday at the end.
Did you?
I can't. The first time I saw it, I could barely understand what was happening in the fight against Doomsday.
Yeah, see, I mean, I definitely, that's where I tend to phase out a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like, because maybe in a vacuum it's okay, but it just feels, especially with what you've seen since then, it just feels pretty like here's a special effects extravaganza.
Maybe it's just because the fight against Batman and Superman was so cool before that, and then Wonder Woman comes in, and then Doomsday comes in, and you're just
I mean, it has moments for crazy. Sure. Yeah.
Superman gets stabbed with the kryptonite spear.
Yeah. He gets the Krypton stink bombs thrown at him by Batman.
Mm-hmm. What can I do with this rare resource? I could turn it into the bullets that I'm going to shoot it with. No, I'm going to gas grenade him, and then I'm going to tap into my hunter-trapper family roots and make a spear.
Yes.
He's got those giant turrets that are pushing Superman back.
I didn't mind that. That was pretty, And then he has the sonic like wave things. Those were all right.
I don't think anything will top. God, which Superman movie was it? It's like a bullet like crumples on his eye.
Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nothing will top that.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's pure cinema, right? Yeah, so it's I think there are some standout action sequences. I mean I don't mind the Batman ambush on the guys at the like harbor or whatever, where he's like that's pretty decent. And again, I think the score adds a lot to some of those scenes.
Yeah, because you've got Junkie XL doing the Batman stuff, and then Hans Zimmer doing the Superman stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Which is a neat little idea. I would say that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, pretty much every scene with Jesse Eisenberg is just unwatchable.
Does Holly Hunter play the like Congresswoman or
yeah, she's the one that
she's the one that tells him about grandma's peach tea or
yep, you got it. Oh, and in terms of circling back for a second, in terms of Wonder Woman in this, she feels like Catwoman.
Yeah, exactly. Selena Kyle.
Yeah, she doesn't really feel like Wonder Woman. So that's one issue I have with it.
Yeah, I kind of miss Catwoman from the. I wish she was in the DCU.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about Anne Hathaway, but like Catwoman was at least there in the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Shoot.
Halle Berry, Catwoman.
Yeah, great Catwoman. Oh, and with Christopher Nolan, this movie, I think even more so than Man of Steel, feels like a Christopher Nolan movie in terms of how it's edited, because like it's like very constant montages, like these extended montages, especially towards the end. That's where it feels like The Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight, especially, I think. Which I mean isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it feels like they're drawing from previous films rather than creating something a little more unique. But I mean, I love Christopher Nolan, so I'm not gonna hate on them for taking from him. But yeah, well, go ahead.
It's interesting how like you can definitely see his involvement to a degree. I'm not sure to how much of a degree. But you see his involvement or like his fingerprints, I think, most heavily on those first two.
Yeah.
And as we've gotten further from that, it's had varying degrees of, I think, getting kind of, in certain senses, better. Obviously not in all senses, but like, the more that we've, I think, kind of loosened up on the reins of certain elements, I think they've managed to flourish a little bit better by trying to make their own thing and not kind of be a little bit like this thing while also being like something else, if that makes sense, Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so anything else about Man of Steel? Or what's this one called? Batman v Superman?
Batman of Steel.
Yeah. Let's go back to that for a second, No, but
no.
Anything else? No takers?
Just that again, I think that this one had a lot of potential, much like Man of Steel, but it never really took it where it needed to go. And Zach, I feel like also with BVS, you get this whole beginning of like, oh, it's for the fans, as like the defense that a lot of the filmmakers around DC make. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, well, in this one shot, we made the break in the window look like the province in Canada where this one like writer or artist associated
Genius.
with Batman like came from, and it's like, yeah, neat, but I'd rather you take it a little more time on the story than throw in this weird little Easter egg. And it's this sort of like Easter eggs equate goodness that I think some people start to use in defense, not even just of DC movies, but of comic book movies that aren't quite up to scratch. It's like, oh, it's got Easter eggs. It's for the fans. It's good. It's like,
I love Easter eggs. But I agree.
Before we move on, that's something I wanted to ask. How does the extended cut compare to?
I mean, it has 30 extra minutes, so it
makes it longer.
Yeah, I mean, I rewatched it just a few days ago, and while I do think it's solid, there's like when you get to that like 2 hour 10-minute mark, it starts to drag. Like I'm like, all right, I'm kind of ready for this thing to be over.
What's added?
A little bit more of the Lois investigation, where you get Jenna Malone as this like one scene character that's helping Lois figure out where the bullet came from. They rearrange the order of a few things, don't they? Don't they like move?
They may have, yeah.
I think they move where Lex goes to the ship. I think it's moved around a little bit.
Okay. And then there's also a scene that's pretty decent, actually. There's the opening, not the opening scene, but the desert scene where Superman comes in and saves Lois Lane. There's an extended preparation for that scene where these like mercenary kind of contractors come in to try and help out the situation, which is pretty cool. But I mean, it's worth watching. I think that's if I had the choice between which version, I would pick the extended.
Jenna Malone is meant to be like Batgirl, right?
Is she? I don't know.
I could have
there was
sworn
a rumor that she would be, but she ends up just being like this. I think she is a reference to someone, and doesn't she work at like Star Labs or something? It's another.
I think so. Yeah.
Sort of nod moment, but I don't think that it's. It's not that she ends up being the red-haired Robin. From, Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm. They cast like a Ruby Rose as Batwoman, right? For like an upcoming...
in CW's Batwoman show.
Yeah, right,
interesting.
Right. Well, that was like the only reason I wanted to watch the extended cut was for because I heard Batgirl was in it, but
no, she's not. No,
I'm bursting your bubble on that one, my friend.
Yeah,
it's all good.
One thing before we move on, I do love the Batman branding of his victims. Where I dig that.
Oh yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, but cool. And then you do get some more of legless Scoot McNairy as well.
Oh God, I forgot all about that.
Yeah,
Holy Lord. Yeah,
great stuff. But all right, well, out of 5 stars for Batman v Superman.
I think I give this one 4.
So nice. Paul?
Like 2.
Brutal. That's fair. I mean, I think the theatrical I would go 3.5. Ultimate I would go 4.
But I think I give it 4 because I remember enjoying myself in the theater, and that's a big factor in my reviews. I can get technical, but the amount of enjoyment and happiness I experienced in the theater is a big factor. And I remember like falling asleep during Man of Steel, but Batman v Superman, I was in it.
You're digging, yeah.
I was in it, so
yeah,
I give it 4.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess we can move on and get to Paul's favorite of these films, which is Suicide Squad. And
is that the next one?
Yeah. Right? Am I right? Suicide Squad, yeah. 2016.
Yeah, it goes Suicide Squad and then Wonder Woman, I think.
Yep.
There we go.
And so this one was, also released in 2016 and is directed by David Ayer and stars Margot Robbie, Will Smith, Jared Leto, Joel Kinnaman, Viola Davis, Jai Courtney, Jay Hernandez, Adam Beach, Cara Delevingne, Scott Eastwood, who is brutal. And this one, against a budget of $175 million, grossed $746.8 million. So this one was pretty decent box office hit.
It only cost them $175 million to make that movie.
Only that.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's not a lot.
You sure?
I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, in comparison to some other ones that have come since, like, I mean, even Endgame,
some other
especially,
tentpoles, like, don't they get up to like $500-600 million budgets or something?
Well, I know Endgame was. Go ahead.
Endgame and Infinity War were both like around supposedly 500 million.
That is insane.
Yeah.
I think 200 is like a good rule of thumb for a lot of the big franchises, and then like you start to get into the high 100 millions for like stuff like Venom and Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
but then of course Endgame and Infinity War, especially Endgame's probably going to gross like multiple billions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do y'all think that Endgame is going to become the new top grosser of films? Is
I
it going to pass Avatar?
I think it's going to be Avatar.
I think it is.
Please. Dethrone Avatar. See Endgame just to defeat James Cameron.
Can we please just let like Avatar gross like maybe $1 million less than Avatar? Just kick it right there. But no.
Maybe and we'll see how those next 4 Avatar movies do.
Oh, I'm dying for Avatar 5. But anyways, so Suicide Squad was pretty well did pretty well financially, but again, like Batman v Superman, did not do very well critically. Was pretty polarizing, I think, for audience as well. And so what's y'all's take on Suicide Squad? And now, have either of you seen the extended cut?
Yeah.
There's an extended cut?
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, you got to get on the extended train.
Right.
But, yeah, so, Paul, I know you have some strong feelings, so why don't you kick us off?
I mean, just top to bottom, a schlock fest. I mean, we start off with like a nice 20-minute duo introduction of everyone in case, I guess, your audience members are a little slow and can't keep track of how many people they are. And it's like, oh, spot who's going to die. It's the guy that didn't get an introduction. He's going to be the first one to die. It's just a boring, bland sort of movie where everything about the characters is just sort of tossed at you. The only scene that's really at all interesting is the bar scene, just because for once we actually get them interacting with each other more than just fighting alongside of each other. It's hard to look at. Jared Leto does one of the worst performances I've ever seen, I think, honestly, just in a film. Will Smith has lost it. Dear God. He's fine in it, but he has lost it. He is not the action hero of yore.
Wait, let's stop here. Wait, so Paul, you're not waiting for him as the blue genie in Aladdin?
Oh, dear Lord. My God. We need someone to fill in the shoes of one of the greatest comic performances ever. Who do we get?
Will Smith, first choice.
Oh, good. The man who made After Earth such a hit.
Yep.
So there are some, I'm bagging on it pretty hard. There are some things that I like. Margot Robbie does a great job, even though it's pretty questionable how her character is framed at parts of the film. But I mean, just a bunch of duds. And for every good performance, there are like equally as many bad to dull performances. Because if like Margot Robbie is the pinnacle of it, and Will Smith is kind of like doing his best, then you have, Scott Eastwood, who's Clint Eastwood with all of the personality pulled out of him. Who
thought of bringing this guy into all of these huge movies? He's the most boring actor I've ever seen.
I'm sorry, who?
His dad.
It's Clint Eastwood's son, and he plays. I mean, he's in like the 8th Fast and Furious, but
Fate the Furious, yeah.
Yeah. Like he's in so many big movies and he's so dull. Oh, and he's in Pacific Rim as well.
Who does he play?
Uprising.
In this, he plays Joel Kinnaman's like one of the soldiers who goes along with the Suicide Squad.
Right.
I just don't get why it's brutal, but go on, Paul, if you had anything else.
Joel Kinnaman, dud. I'm not really a big Jai Courtney fan for most of the movies that I've seen him in. I really liked him in the show Spartacus, if anyone watched the Spartacus season 1. And I liked him in that. He did a decent job in that. I found him likable. I think he does decently well here. I feel like Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaje is pretty wasted as Killer Croc. There are all these great characters that have all of these really, really interesting backgrounds and personalities, and they never interact. They never do anything. My favorite character in the whole thing is Diablo, because he's the only one where we're not spoon-fed everything about him.
Yeah.
Throughout, either at the front of the movie or throughout. There are some cool visuals. One of my favorites is the hand reversal for June Moon becoming Enchantress. That's a really very small, brief visual that I really enjoy. I like Giant Diablo when he becomes like the Aztec fire demon. I do enjoy that one, even though it's a little bit silly to have him in like the giant fight against Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Right.
But other than that, it's them fighting putty people in a bunch of darkly lit rooms, giving us nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, well, to bounce back, I mean, in terms of look, I agree the special effects I don't like. I don't like the look of the blue crap towards the end. But I think visually, like cinematography wise, I like the look of the movie. It actually feels and looks like a film as opposed to, I think, a lot of the Marvel movies, which feel very televisual to me. And I think this, in terms of just composition, colors, I think it actually looks pretty decent and like a film rather than like an extended kind of TV episode that I think some Marvel movies do. But hang on, my dog is getting on my nerves. Hang on. You talk.
Oh, no, I was just, just waiting for you to finish.
Okay, well, I'll edit that out. But
the magic of editing.
Yes. But I agree, like Batman v Superman, there are some big issues with it. But in terms of the characters, the look, just the feel of the movie, I like. And I love Margot Robbie in it as well. And I think the Harley Quinn and Joker relationship is interesting, even if it's not there that much. And I'm on the other side. I actually like Jared Leto. I like the look. I think it's ridiculous. I love the look of his character. It's at least different enough to where it's interesting. Although I can see why it does turn some people off. But I think he's interesting, and I just wish he could have just been the villain rather than injecting the, lame CG villain towards the end. But I don't mind the kind of walk through the streets, the kind of like Escape from New York-esque kind of vibe to it. But I mean, I don't mind Will Smith in it. I think it's again, he does his best, I think, but I think for the most part, they are pretty underused across the board, and it does feel very hashed together. I mean, because there were many different like groups of editors who worked on it through its production. I think at some point there was some of the editors were people who did the movie trailers, and so it feels very like over stylized at times in terms of the editing and everything. But I don't know, I think it's kind of an interesting mess to me, but I agree it's not amazing. Jacob, what about you?
Firstly, I think pre reshoots, this movie was on track to be really good.
Yeah.
I think pre reshoots, pre rewrites, that this movie would have been really good. I think it would have been the first great DC movie.
Yeah.
But something that you and I were talking about before the show is that here comes the Marvel comparisons again. Guardians of the Galaxy kind of altered this movie.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy came out around the same time. It was very well received. It had that sort of goofy, constant music in the background. Every character has a soundtrack, jokes that Marvel hadn't really like achieved yet. Joss Whedon sort of kind of tried to do it, but Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn just went for it, because the Guardians of the Galaxy are just goofy already.
Yeah. And
so I think that Suicide Squad was on track to be another sort of dark, gritty movie, but I think it could have been really good. But then, the marketing execs were like, this isn't going to make us any money. They were like, you need to change everything right now. We need jokes. We need music, and I think the trailer for one of the later trailers for Suicide Squad actually just used a song from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. In the trailer.
Yeah.
And so it's just like you go from that really good first trailer that you and I were talking about, the one with I Started a Joke playing in the background, and the really slow pans and You know, like all those really good shots, some of which just aren't even in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to like all of a sudden there's this PR material where it's like Suicide Squad, and it's like this art of like some fucking Lucky Charms or something. Sorry,
Right.
and it's just like
Edgelord
all
Lucky
like
Charms.
it's all like, you know, colorful and
Well, see, that stuff I don't mind. It looks like it's post production, but I don't mind it usually.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a family friendly podcast. I know
It's not. It's not.
No, just kidding.
No.
But then, you know, you get to the movie and you know, every character has its little intro with their own little theme song, and
It's like, hey,
their freeze frames.
It's like the producers were like, you know what song we haven't used in a while? Fortunate Son by CCR.
Fortunate Son for Killer Croc. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I did like Deadshot's intro just because it's like efficient with all these guns. It's just like musket or something.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, that's not bad.
That's fun, but it just devolved. And something I remember thinking while I was watching it was this the plot goes in a loop because Viola Davis says that she's creating the Suicide Squad so that like Enchantress can't have like a bunch of power or something, but then like through creating the Suicide Squad she like allows that to happen, and then the Suicide Squad have to go like stop her, and it's just this big loop. I would kind of have to watch it again to sort of figure that out, but I just remember the whole point of the movie being like the whole reason for them creating the Suicide Squad wound up being why I don't know. It was just
Well, it's like our film professor would say. It's like a Coen Brothers film. Everything's in a circle. You know, everything goes in a loop.
Everything goes in a loop.
Yeah, it all repeats itself. You know,
it's not full circle. You know, it's bad circle. That's,
yeah.
You know.
Well said, man. Well said.
But I have to say something that a lot of people aren't gonna like.
Get it out there, man.
And I think, you know, I'm not trying to be you know, public enemy number one here, but I don't like Heath Ledger's Joker. I don't. You know, I like Heath Ledger. I like Heath Ledger. I think Heath Ledger is great, brilliant, wonderful actor. I don't like his portrayal of the Joker.
Why?
I just think it doesn't align with what, you know, maybe it's a selfish opinion, but I don't think it aligns with what I imagine the Joker to be from all the content that I consumed when I was a kid, like the TV shows and the video games and the comics I read. I just feel like it's such an out there, brand new portrayal of the Joker that like I didn't like his like stringy hair, and he's just
loved the stringy hair.
Sort of his just sort of the way he does it, and I don't, because I grew up with like Mark Hamill Joker, and I know that Heath Ledger is in no way trying to emulate Mark Hamill's Joker, but it just, something about it rubs me the wrong way. I'm not saying like, oh, Heath Ledger's the worst actor in the world, I just hate this, but it just it for some reason just didn't end up being what I felt the Joker should be. And I'm not sort of leading into this to say that Jared Leto is
See, I was about to ask.
better than Heath Ledger, because that is, I don't think that. I think that Heath Ledger did the Joker better than Jared Leto, but I think that I liked Jared Leto's Joker because it was so crazy and so like different and out there. And for some reason, Jared Leto's Joker kind of reminded me of like Mark Hamill's Joker. Like Heath Ledger and Jared Leto did Unhinged in a different, both in very different ways.
Right. Well, I mean, one thing with the Joker in this is I kind of like them depicting him as a modern gangster. I don't like, I liked that. I felt that was interesting, and obviously it's not done. Yeah, great tattoos. Yeah, and I do love his laugh in this. That feels kind of like the comic books, where it's kind of the like ha ha kind of thing. I like that, and I just wish again he had been the villain and we had had more of him.
I think if so like, because a lot of him was cut from the movie. And I think if we had more of him, that people would have liked him better. But I want to make it crystal clear that I'm not saying that Jared Leto is a better Joker than Heath Ledger. But Heath Ledger didn't capture me the way that I thought he would.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hamill's my favorite Joker.
You'd rather watch Heath Ledger in A Knight's Tale, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Just,
well, I mean that's that's fine.
I mean, maybe I just didn't buy Heath Ledger as an evil person. I don't know. I just know him from it was like 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, great film.
But I'm sorry if that offends everyone.
No, we like to offend
maybe
on this podcast. So
no one's gonna buy this episode. They're gonna refund it.
You can't. No refunds, man. Once you buy, you can't. No refunds, man. Sorry.
But
no take-backs.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's Heath Ledger does a brilliant job as Joker. I don't like it.
Hey, that's fair, man.
I like Jared Leto's Joker, but he doesn't do a brilliant job.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Paul.
Jared Leto strikes me like a 12-year-old who like read a Joker comic and didn't really get it and was like, I've got this, and just launched headlong into it. I hate everything about it. It's like, hey, do you like ham-fisted visuals? Because here you go.
Yeah.
Damaged 8 different ha-ha-has.
Love it.
I feel like he's doing on a certain level. I feel like he's almost trying to do like one-upsmanship on a certain level from Heath Ledger. It's like the voice, but amplified. It's weird mannerisms, but amplified. And I've never felt so acted at through a movie. You go to if you ever go to like a live performance of something and the actors are acting at you, it's not great. And I've never felt so acted at through a movie that's just like, look at this performance. Isn't it kooky? And it's like, no, please dial it back. Try and find a person. Try and find like an actual psychology. And I just felt like it was these amalgam ideas of like what the Joker is. And maybe it's also because this movie came out like post New 52, which I also think is just like one of the worst uses of the Joker ever, where he's cutting off his own face and shit.
Oh yeah.
And so I feel like Joker is one of those characters where a little bit less is more, because the more you try to like chase this idea of like, oh, he's fucking crazy, it becomes like a weaker and weaker usage of the character. And also just in terms of universe work, I don't mind if there are like some variations in what you're doing from film to film. But I just feel like this Joker would have had his shit stomped regularly by Ben Affleck's branding, murdering psychopathic Batman.
Right.
I don't think this Joker would have stood even 10 seconds in the ring with Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's the other thing also, is that like to a certain, if we are talking about these as, one big franchise, I think that I don't buy, and maybe this is sort of a weakness, not of the film itself as a film, but as a film and an entry in an epic story. I don't buy this group as being able to take on someone like Superman.
Oh yeah, no,
that's fair.
I feel like
that's
this
fair.
group would have just shit stomped.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little. Now I also own Justice League, God help me. But I own Man of Steel, BVS, and Suicide Squad, and I watched them all a few times, like after watch, because I do think that you can learn from foibles in film. Yeah. And this one, I think, is mostly one where you can just like chuck the baby out with the bathwater. Like, it's all bad. Like, just get rid of most of it. Yeah. I watched Fury after this movie, and then I was really, really mad because I was like, where was this guy? Yeah. Where was this filmmaker?
Did you see End of Watch?
I haven't seen End of Watch.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Now, Fury is great.
Oh, yeah. Now, have we seen Bright?
Oh,
no.
Oh, Paul, you got if you don't like Suicide Squad, you gotta check out Bright.
Don't make me.
But yeah, well, Paul, so you don't like when Jared Leto says you ain't got no beef to Common? Or
No.
brilliant lines like that.
I will say I do not like Jared Leto as a person.
No, not as a person. Your personal call out.
I think that a little bit of background. I hate method acting. I think it's stupid. I think that if you have to method act, you don't know how to act. And
so you don't like Daniel Day-Lewis?
I just, it works for some people. It doesn't work for other people. Right. I think that both Heath Ledger and Jared Leto's prep for the Joker was insane. You had Heath Ledger like locking himself in rooms for like weeks at a time. Jared Leto sending dead rats and used condoms to people like an asshole. I just, it's like you don't need to do that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just it's gross and weird, and Mark Hamill never had to do that stuff
that we know of.
He's a brilliant Joker.
Yeah.
Troy Baker, good Joker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
man.
Jack Nicholson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all of them, man.
Jack Nicholson is just channeling the Kubrick times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dog wants to be part of the cast, man.
It's, and I'm glad that they're not necessarily just full tilt rebooting it with the upcoming James Gunn Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that Viola Davis, right? Amanda Waller.
Yep.
Yes.
I think she did a tremendous job. I really, really loved her.
Viola Davis is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she does great in it. And I would like to see this idea, because they are meant to be DC's guardians for this universe. So I would like to see the idea of it integrated more and fleshed out more. But like, holy God, what a mess. Just disastrous. And then because of this, we also have in the worst Transformers movie of them all, The Last Night.
Great film.
You get that little Suicide Squad-esque treatment on the roll call.
Oh my God, that was the worst piece of filmmaking I've ever seen in my whole life.
I've not seen The Last Night.
Oh my God. It was that when I saw that,
a little Suicide Squad moment.
Oh God, Michael.
The last Transformers I saw was 2.
You should check out 4. We got to do a Transformers
Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction
bonus show.
I'm in for it. I'm a big defender of Transformers Dark of the Moon. So I'm totally
okay.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's The Last Night. No, because veering off really quickly. If Michael Bay did a medieval fantasy movie or medieval like war movie, that could be pretty cool. I mean, the opening scene is pretty awesome. It's like a brutal.
Yeah, you can figure out who's on what side.
Yes,
visually.
Yeah, that whole thing. But anyways, Suicide Squad. I like the helicopter ambush by the Joker. I like that where he's kind of like laughing and shooting his like machine gun. I don't mind that.
Isn't like Hammerhead in this movie? Joker's got like a henchman that's with him, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they're all kind of wearing costumes. I don't know if it's
Ben Affleck's in this movie for like a second.
Right? Yeah, Ben Affleck. Yeah, he pops up
2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh God, Joker with the underlight Lamborghini.
Love it.
The custom underlit Lamborghini.
Something I remember was that Slipknot gets taken out early.
Yeah, Adam Beach.
Some guy who doesn't have an introduction. It's like, oh.
Yeah. They're just like, there's like, here, this is what's going to happen if you misbehave.
He's done, yeah. And I like Adam Beach, who plays Slipknot, so that was too bad. But yeah, I mean, again, I like the kind of walk through the streets. I like that stuff. But when it gets to the third act, it is unwatchable.
Will
Close
Smith,
to.
just like, what are we, some kind of Suicide Squad?
Oh my God.
Roll credits.
That was the worst. Yeah, that's like at the end of the new Fantastic Four where they're like, they say something like, are we some kind of Fantastic Four? Or they say Fantastic Four in one way.
Is that as bad as everyone says?
Yeah, it's bad.
I'll probably watch it.
Yeah, I'll give it a look. So, all right. Well, anything else about Suicide Squad?
on that note of the finale, I feel like one thing that they do is they establish, what sort of motivates some of these people. And so, Harley wants her relationship with Joker, and Deadshot wants his relationship with his daughter, and so on and so on. And one of the things that pisses me off the most is the thing that the Enchantress shows him is not like being reunited with his daughter. It's killing Batman.
Oh, yeah.
And that really pissed, because I'm like, oh, cool. So, like, his daughter doesn't actually mean shit. And I know that you can get into some sort of argument like, well, Batman put him in jail. And it's like, no, he should just be thinking, she's not, Harley isn't thinking about going back to being Dr. Quinzel. She's thinking about some sort of weird Joker June Cleaver sort of thing. But then you've got Deadshot, and he's like, no, I just want to kill Batman. It's not really about me getting back with my daughter. I just want to murder the Batman.
Yeah.
And that really, really, that's a little character note in there that really pisses me off from the finale.
Yeah, and I don't mind. Well, one thing I don't mind is at the end when he's explaining to his daughter in terms of math how he would snipe someone. I didn't mind that. That was all right.
I like Kara as Enchantress.
See, I think it's more. I don't think she's great in this. I think it's more so just like how her character is presented. That's not great. I think she's actually pretty fun in Valerian. If y'all have seen that, I don't know.
I saw it recently.
Yeah, I think she's good in that, and so I think she can act. I think in this, she's just so covered with CG and stuff that it's not my favorite of hers. But
Dane DeHaan in that movie is weird.
Yeah, he's just weird in general, man.
Half the time it feels like he belongs there, and half the time it feels like he really doesn't.
Yeah, he's an odd guy, but
he's got that voice.
Yeah, he's got the voice, man. Yeah. So, all right. Well, anything else before we move on?
Yeah, just like BVS. What does the extended cut add to this?
This one is pretty. It's minimal stuff. It's like maybe 5 extra minutes, so it's mostly Joker stuff, which I'm in for.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's the theatrical cut is like 2 hours and 5 minutes, and this one is maybe 2:15 or something. It's pretty. So it's not. If you don't like the theatrical cut, it's not going to change your mind with the extended. So
have either of you seen Gotham at all?
I haven't.
I watched 3 episodes and then I said no, thank you. And
it's not good. But Cameron Monaghan, who plays Ian on Shameless, if you know Shameless, he plays the Joker in that show. But it's like it's revealed that they're like twin brothers, and like one of them is like sane and the other's like crazy, and it's bizarre.
Huh.
So
yeah, I haven't watched any of it.
It's like the Joker is two people.
That's weird.
Makes no sense.
Well, that kind of comes from a whole thing in the comics right now where like Batman created this ultra intelligent computer that revealed that there are actually 3 different Jokers.
Oh yeah.
And that they each sort of function in different modes. And so like one of them's just kind of funny, and then one of them's like actually sadistic, and then one of them is sort of classic Joker, something in between the two.
Yeah. All right. Well, out of 5 stars for Suicide Squad.
2.
2?
2 out of
I'll go
5.
3.5.
Hard 1.
1. All right.
Yeah, maybe 0.5 if I'm feeling grumpy, like on a day that I'm having to deal with it.
And your dog is just...
Yeah, my dog is like the last few shows, she wanders in and out and in and out. But, all right, well, cool. I guess we can move on. I guess is it Wonder Woman that's next? Yeah. So Wonder Woman was released in 2017 and is directed by Patty Jenkins, stars Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Robin Wright, Danny Houston, David Thewlis. That's about it.
Was Justice League after Wonder Woman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was in the same year, but it was a few months afterwards. And on a budget of somewhere between 120 million and 150, it grossed 821 million. And so it was pretty successful. And this is definitely one of the most well-received critically as well. And it's my favorite of the films. I'll start off. So what do you all think about Wonder Woman?
I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah,
here.
kick us off, man. By all means.
As you said, that this was sort of when people were like, "This is the first good DC movie," and everyone raved over it, went crazy. I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I think she was perfectly cast. I like the movie until the very end.
Yeah.
Because did Zack Snyder step in and do some stuff with this movie?
Don't think so.
I thought he was involved in some way.
Well, he's an executive producer or he's a producer on all the DC films, right, Paul? Or most of them?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure how much he had to do with Wonder Woman.
Oh, I think he's involved. I think a little bit, at least, in most of the films, but I don't know how much of a say he had.
One of the problems I have with this movie, Patty Jenkins as director, female director. Everyone thought that was great, and I do. I think that Wonder Woman deserves a female director, but the script is still written by men. So it comes off as a little. There's like some dick jokes in there. Just
what a woman can't write a dick joke, man.
So it's just strange, but so yeah, I like the movie until the end because Steve Trevor, played by the wonderful Chris Pine, makes this big speech about he's like, maybe there is no war god. Maybe humans are just evil. Maybe we're just selfish. Maybe we create our own anger and our own war and our own problems and our own lack of peace just because that's how humans are. And you kind of just have to deal with that and, focus on the good ones. And it's this really great speech about how there's no one to blame but ourselves. It's great. It's wonderful. It's a huge moral moment. And then seconds later, it's like, no, actually, Professor Lupin is Ares. It's like no, he exists, and I'm like, that just negates everything we just saw. That negates the moral of the movie. That negates the lessons we've learned. That negates everything we've witnessed since the beginning, and that hurt me. I was like, that's just that and Ares' mustache. Just I can't, and it just all fell apart for me at the end. It was disappointing because I was like, this is really great, and then. Just
done. Yeah, you're done, man.
It just, I don't know. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, I agree. The speech is good, and I think the third act it pretty much just feels like Batman v Superman with Doomsday. It's just kind of a dark, murky CG fight, and Suicide Squad as well, I would say. But I think I agree. I think Gal Gadot is absolutely perfect. I think that I don't know how that casting went about, but whoever did it was, I think, spot on. I think just her poise, her looks, her acting, I think it all fits really well. And I love the opening act on the Amazon.
Themyscira.
Yes. I love all that stuff. Although I guess in terms of the pacing, it almost feels like by the time you get out of there, which is maybe 35 minutes or so, it almost feels like that should have been the first hour or something, because once that ends, I realize, oh wait, I still have 2 hours of this movie left. And because there's so much going on, even in that first 30 minutes that are great, but it's like, oh wait, we still have an entire plot to deal with, which at times it is a little long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. But I think Chris Pine is great. I think it's very well directed. I don't mind the script. I think it serves the characters well. I like the World War I setting, and I like the fish out of water stuff as well. And the score, you get that little guitar riff, the Wonder Woman theme.
That great scene where she runs across no man's land.
The no man's land scene is pretty iconic for sure.
Jumps in and
yeah, and I think just the character herself, where she's kind of always seeing the good in people, and she's very optimistic even in the darkest of times, really helps the movie and really comes through more than it has with other characters and other films. And so I think it works really, really well. And I would say this is on par for me in terms of comparing it to Marvel as one of the best ones. But what about you, Paul?
I really, really enjoy it. I guess what I'm about to say will sound like a dig, and I guess it kind of is, but it's not it's not the worst dig, I guess, that I can make. I really enjoy it because I really enjoy Captain America: The First Avenger, and this to me is kind of like Captain America: The First Avenger, if Peggy Carter had gotten the powers instead of Steve Rogers. It feels. It doesn't, even though it is World War One, it feels a little bit more sort of World War II-y, except for the No Man's Land sequence. It's this person who, has this potential to be a great symbol who gets dropped into a European war setting against the Germans, where they round up a band of misfits and, tag-alongs that represent different backgrounds to march across Europe to stop a German who wants to use science to destroy the world. And I think that it does a lot of stuff really, really well. And I like Gal Gadot. I think that there's a better Wonder Woman out there. I think that she does really, really, really well. But I do think that there's probably a better one out there. I like the movie a lot. I think it is probably in the upper echelon of the DC films. It is better than some of the Marvel films. Like it's better than Thor: The Dark World, which was originally supposed to be Patty Jenkins, in case anyone didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't.
So I think that it's better than some of the lesser Marvel films, but I also agree that the third act really hurts the film pretty dramatically. Kind of like Jake was saying, I just think that it lessens the whole experience a little bit. But I do enjoy everything that's good in it, ultimately more than I enjoy everything that's kind of lesser in it.
Mm-mm. Oh, well, one thing, I do love the Dr. Poison character.
Yeah.
Or is that what she's called? I don't know.
I think so.
Whatever the villain with the chemical gas and stuff, I love. I love the look and all that stuff.
Something also that bothers me about the Ares reveal is have either of you seen Now You See Me?
Unfortunately, yeah.
You know at the end when it's revealed that Mark Ruffalo is actually the leader of the elite magicians group.
Yes,
feels like that to me. There's no setup for us to have any reason to believe that character would be Ares in any way whatsoever, and they're just like. They're writing the scripts and they're just like, oh man, we got to put Ares in here. Who can we make Ares?
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
let's select this random British stuffy guy.
Let's do this guy.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's just like it feels like that to me because I'm like, it's like a twist for twist's sake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? No, just it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
it's like Ares exists. We know that if you're a DC fan, but I feel like they could have handled it better because, as I said, I just feel like it makes everything I just watched pointless. It's just disappointing.
That's fair.
And it's kind of silly for me to try and imagine David Thewlis as being able to fight Gal Gadot, even though like they cover him in enough armor that you can't see his face for much of the fight. I'm like, no, not a chance in hell.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. But yeah, I mean, with this one, it's actually almost. We've talked about it on the regular show, but. With Captain Marvel, one of the reasons I really like that movie is just because of the character herself. And I think it's the same thing with this. Is I think just the traits come through really well and through the writing and the performance and how she goes throughout the film. And that stuff really kind of, it makes me overlook some of the third act issues and some of the runtime. But I really, really like it. And pretty decent score, and I think it looks pretty good as well for the most part as well.
There were surprising amount of people upset with the size of Gal Gadot's breasts in this movie. They thought that Wonder Woman should have bigger breasts.
They also had to recolor her armpit.
It was it was a big deal on the internet.
Wow, I don't think I think I missed that one.
There's an interview with Gal Gadot where they were like people weren't happy when you were cast as Wonder Woman, and she's like, yeah, they said I had too small of boobs.
Huh. Well, that's modern day America for you, right?
That's what people say.
Yeah. I did not know about the armpit thing. That's strange.
Yeah, in that trailer beat where she like lifts up the tank, people were like, her armpits are discolored.
Oh.
Because she's like Israeli, right?
She's Israeli, yeah. But
Wonder Woman's American or something.
I don't know. Yeah, so I it's one I've gone back to a couple times, and I like it a lot more than other similar films. But yeah,
All right.
And are you all excited for Wonder Woman 1984 coming out? I guess next year.
No.
No. Why?
No. One, we're starting off already, and I'm out with Steve Trevor being back because again, it feels like.
Yeah, that's something else.
It feels like a lot of cribbing again. You know, it's like, oh, it's a Wonder Woman movie that's set under the eye of Big Brother, where it's all about like the age of the Cold War and Cold War paranoia, and this character that was a big part of her life that died in the war is now back, and we don't know how he's back. And then on top of that, it's also Kristen Wiig is the bad guy.
Oh, is it? Oh, Lord.
She plays Cheetah.
All right, well, maybe I'm less excited for it, but
yeah, bringing back beloved characters that died in sacrificial ways, it's never sat well with me.
No.
You know, like bringing back Colin Firth in the second Kingsman movie.
Oh, that sucks.
It's just like, come on. It's like he didn't even want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's sleepwalking through the whole movie.
Yeah.
But like it does the movies a disservice narratively to bring back, like they think that they're like, oh, if we bring back this fan beloved character, everyone will be super happy about it, and they'll be like, oh, he's back, it's great, but it just makes it narratively a mess, and it just does it this huge disservice. I've never liked it. I've never liked retconning or going back on something that you have very clearly set in stone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right. Anything else about Wonder Woman?
It's good.
I like the look of the Amazon fighters.
Yeah. Good
stuff.
Yeah, there's enough good to outset any sort of criticism of the film. And I mean, it's her first outing in her solo movie, you know. It should have been her first time on the big screen, just in general. But it's the first big single solo female superhero movie that we've had, and I think that it definitely will earn its place in like the lineage of superhero films. I don't think that it's going to be one that gets forgotten or looked back at as being undeserving of the praise it got at the time. I think it does, for the most part, really, really tremendous stuff.
Yeah. All right. Out of 5?
Despite my issues with the ending, I think I'd still give it a 4.
Paul?
Yeah, I'd say probably like a 4.
4.5 for me.
There you go.
All right. So I guess we can move on and get to Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah.
Zack Snyder / Joss Whedon.
Yes, I guess kind of Ghost, directed by Joss Whedon. So this one stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, Jeremy Irons, Diane Lane, J.K. Simmons, Connie Nielsen. Score.
Simmons.
What?
Sorry, it was J.K. Simmons. What a waste.
Yeah. Score by Danny Elfman as well.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah. And this one, against a budget of $300 million, grossed $657.8 million. So not the best return. And this one was, I'd say, even more harshly criticized by both fans and audiences, I think, alike. I think there weren't many people who I've talked to who genuinely enjoyed the movie.
Because it's terrible.
Yeah. When I saw this, I didn't see it in the theater. I rewatched, I just got it on Blu-ray, and I didn't mind it at the time, but having rewatched it just about a week or two ago, it is just not good. It's so, I mean, first off, it's so forgettable. Whereas like something like Batman v Superman is, it to me at least, an interesting mess. Whereas this, it's like, there's just nothing memorable. There's nothing that ambitious. There's nothing that much learned about anyone. Ray Fisher and Cyborg are the most boring pairing like ever. And I don't know if it's purely him, but it's just, I hate the look of the character. They don't do anything with him.
This movie is what killed the DC universe for me.
Yeah.
This is why it took me so long to see Aquaman. It's because of this movie. So thanks, Justice League.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I don't mind, although it's very minimal, it's almost like a Jared Leto thing. I don't mind how they make Aquaman out to be in this movie, where he's like drinking the whiskey as he's like jumping into the ocean, and like where they have like the White Stripes song going. It's pretty stupid, but I don't mind it because at least it's a little different, although it's not great in the big scheme of things.
But it's weird because when you get to Aquaman, he's like a completely different.
Exactly. And that's the issue, is like it's the DC movies are so inconsistent because they keep on changing up.
Jokes. We got him.
Yeah. Is that the tagline? Yeah, of the films. Yeah. So
I think the joke is anyone that went to and paid to see this movie. That's the big.
Yes.
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I bought the 4K.
Saw it in theaters.
Yeah, so I agree. It's just dull, very bland. One thing I don't mind is the fight with the Amazon fighters on the grass plain, where they're playing like a relay race almost. They're like slinging the cube across from horse to horse and stuff. Like that's, I mean, it's stupid, but at least it's different. But the Steppenwolf character is terrible. Visually, the movie is not much to enjoy. I mean, Danny Elfman, again, he's kind of lost it, and so it's not my favorite.
It's painful.
Yeah, preach it, man.
A mess.
Yeah,
I don't think I could tell you. I don't think I could tell you what happens in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember a single thing about it. It was so forgettable. The only thing I remember, and that I like sort of like half smiled at, was when they're all sort of fighting Superman, and Ezra Miller goes to punch him, and he just like kind of looks at him. And
and all the Ezra Miller jokes are so bad. The Flash jokes. But
that's the one thing I remember being. Ezra Miller, I think, is miscast as the
totally
as the Flash. Just
and let's just get rid. Let's just retire Ezra Miller from Hollywood. He's terrible in Fantastic Beasts.
He is not great.
No,
just across the board, he has this real like following, and I'm not sure where it comes from because I've seen a few different performances of his. You know, I've seen him in Fantastic Beasts. I've seen him in Trainwreck. Is that what it was?
Maybe I saw.
Movie?
Oh yeah, I did like him in Perks of Being a Wallflower. He's all right in that.
I think that's where his following really comes from. Is that movie?
Mm-hmm.
And but everything since then, he's just gotten. I think it's been like the law of diminishing returns. You know, every time he comes back, he gets a little bit worse and worse.
Maybe it's because he wore lipstick to that latest premiere. Do y'all see that? He wore this suit with red lipstick on. Maybe people would dig him for that.
Worn dresses and all kinds of stuff.
Maybe
going for it.
Yeah, he wore that thing that made him look like a Michelin man made out of garbage bags.
Great. Yeah, great outfit.
But I grew up watching Justice League cartoons, and I'd go to the public library and rent Justice League on DVD, sometimes VHS.
Yeah.
And,
no Blu-ray back then, right?
And Martian Manhunter is not even a thing in the DC universe, and Green Lantern is coming at some point apparently, but like he's not even really mentioned in the DC universe at this point, and he's a huge part of like the Justice League, and like Hot Girl isn't really there. I mean, she's in the TV shows. She's in the Legends of something.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah. But Aquaman is not established yet at this point. Cyborg is not established yet at this point. The Flash is not established yet at this point.
But you had the email scene in Batman.
Well, yeah, the email scene. They haven't had their solo. The plan to release solo movies after the ensemble movie just didn't.
Yeah. Although, in defense of that, can I just say this? Wasn't Thanos set up in post-credit sequences?
Yeah.
He shows up in Guardians as a character.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. I take that back.
But, and then Aquaman takes place after Justice League like chronologically, right?
I think so.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah, so it's like, who is this guy? He just shows up.
He's Aquaman.
No, I believe he was in like one scene in a previous movie. It's like him underwater. It's probably the email scene,
Oh, yeah.
right? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
He
like,
shoots through the water, and yeah,
yeah, and
He tritons the camera.
yes,
just like I don't think Jason Momoa is miscast, but as Paul was saying about Wonder Woman, I think there's a better Aquaman out there. But just I can't with this movie.
No,
It's just all I remember is watching it and I'm like, this has gotta be the biggest mess I've seen in a long time. I was like, I don't understand what's happening. You know, I get like the general story, but like the script is so bad and the CGI is so bad. The editing is some of the worst I've ever seen. The scenes seem jumbled together, sometimes out of order.
yeah.
And it gave me a headache.
Mhm.
And it was just me, my friend, and like one other person in the theater.
Yeah.
This was a week after it had released. Surprised it was even still playing,
Mhm.
but I just
had one day showing. That was it,
yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it.
We haven't even gotten to the Henry Cavill mustache digital removal.
The digital removal
I
of the
have a
mustache.
What's
My
that?
theory is Paramount wanted to ruin Justice League, and so they were like, "Nah, don't let him shave it."
Yeah,
Like, my
that
whole
looks.
theory is the upper brass. We're like, let's watch him suffer.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would say in terms of all the scenes, I'd say the worst one is the opening one.
The cell phone mouth is
Yeah,
the worst.
the cell phone mouth, not just in terms of the digital mustache removal thing, but like they say, like, what does the symbol on your chest mean? And he just like looks out into the distance for a good 60 seconds, and then he's like, you know, and it's just like the worst acting, the worst writing. It's just and one thing about the third act is in all of the chaos with all of the CG, they feel the need to interject this random family who's
Driving
like
away in a jalopy.
yeah, who happens to be living in the location where all of the fighting is taking place, and we have to constantly jump back to them to make sure they're okay. And it's just like, why are we following them? Why are we spending time on this? You know.
Also, I just want to say the scene where Aquaman is like sitting on Wonder Woman's whip or lasso rather, and
the lasso of truth.
It's
scene.
like a joke because he's like spilling his guts, and then they're just like he realizes he's sitting on it. That's not how that works.
Yeah,
it's not how the lasso works.
Yeah,
but you know, just
you tell him, man.
But it's a joke.
Yeah,
they got it.
Yeah. I was going to say shoot. Somebody go. I'll think of it.
Probably something good.
Yeah.
This movie, you know, as we've talked about, there's a lot of hands-on involvement from the studio in the process, which I get. It's a big money investment, but this movie is like the culmination of a lot of different perfect storms. I think you've got a baseline script and story by David Goyer, who's like openly contemptible of Martian Manhunter as a character, who doesn't seem to be like really enjoying it anymore at this point. You've got Zack Snyder, who makes questionable choices with the best of scripts, and then suddenly you have him having to leave for, you know, tragedy. And I'm not going to like shit on the guy for having to leave. You have to leave, but then the studio, instead of actually being like, all right, let's pause, let's really take the time to either let him come back or let Joss Whedon really work this thing in the direction that he wants to take it. Instead, they all just sort of jumped like headlong into it and were like, no, it is coming out. Like, it is going to come out right now. We're not changing anything.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, word around the campfire is that was largely because they wanted to safeguard their bonuses at the end of the year.
Ah, okay.
And you just look at the movie, and from the very first sequence, I'm like, this is ugly. This is choppy. This doesn't make any kind of sense. Batman jumps on the parademon and him fly off, and then somehow he ends up on the same roof with Colt McNally, which was like a tremendous waste of a really great character actor.
Mm-hmm.
I love J.K. Simmons. I was really on board with him being Gordon. He's not a thing in this movie. It's
No.
completely
Wasted.
pointless.
Yeah.
Wasted.
Yeah. And like just everything is so horrifyingly bad. And there's, you know what? I'm going to get on the little soapbox here.
Please.
There is no Snyder Cut.
I want to see the Snyder Cut.
It does not exist. It has all been confirmed to essentially like not actually be a thing, and any of the footage that might be theoretically used isn't like full sequences. It's not fully fleshed out visual effects, and they're not going to finish out the VFX in hopes that they can make this movie more money later. They've written it off, they've taken the loss, and they're going to do what they hope everyone does, which is forget that movie ever came out.
Done.
Just move on. The Snyder Cut is not happening. The next time I see #release the Snyder Cut,
God.
I'm going to pull out my hair. Like, I'm going to absolutely lose my shit on someone.
Yeah. That's fair.
It is not there. What we have is a schlocky, terrible movie. And apparently, like, Green Lantern was supposed to be the person that Jeremy Irons is talking to in that one trailer, like, really early on.
Huh. Okay.
And it's like they either never cast him or never added him into the movie, like, in full.
Okay.
Because that's not a thing, despite showing the Green Lanterns in the whole big battle.
Yeah.
Just a terrible movie. Everything about it. And, like, Ben Affleck, great in BVS. He's like a shadow of that character in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Superman suddenly has like a real 180. And also, they bring him back. He goes to the farm. He realizes that he wants to be Superman again. And then he's right back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such like a fast turnaround on these important sort of plot moments. And Lois Lane was always pretty contrived into the plot, you know. But here they just say, complete fuck it. And it's like, oh, we need her to save Superman. Bring out the big guns, Alfred. It's absolute waste of Amy Adams. Like, just criminal waste across the board. And I like Jason Momoa fine enough in, like, Game of Thrones. But I don't know who the hell this character is. His powers are very, very nondescript. Like, I don't know what they are. He seems indestructible. He seems just as unbreakable as Superman does. You can't fall through, like, a 10-story building and be fine.
Yeah.
You know, do the hair flip. And me ever think that be in danger again. It's just, it's dumb. And I think that if you wanted, it was supposed to be a two-parter. And if you wanted to do it, I think you should have saved Superman coming back at the end. Because once Superman shows up, like, Wonder Woman is no longer the MVP that she has been throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And Steppenwolf, you know, they show up and he's after the DCEU's equivalent of the Allspark from the first Transformers movie. And
love the Allspark.
The first word out of his mouth, the first line that we hear from this character who we've never met, who is brand new to us, who looks silly and is bad CG, is "Mother."
Yeah.
Just, I used to think Suicide Squad was my least favorite, and then I watched
Justice League. Yes. Yeah, it's just not good. Jacob, anything else?
It's bad.
Yeah. It's bad, man.
It's tough.
Yeah, you know, very succinct.
I although I don't mind the joke where Ezra Miller asks Batman what his superpowers are, and he goes, "I'm rich." Like, that's not bad. But
solid joke.
Yeah.
So Cyborg is a non-entity in this movie, and he's getting his solo movie, I think, at some point. Who knows? But does anyone know? Do either of you know if he gonna be in, or is he in, I guess, Titans, the TV show?
I have no idea.
It's separate. The DC streaming service shows are separate from the DCU as a larger piece.
Well, I guess like not like Ray Fisher specifically, but do you know if like Cyborg the character is going to be in Titans, or are they saving that for like the DCU?
Yeah, I think he is.
Okay.
Whew.
What's that?
Thank God, man.
What's that other show? That other DC show that just looks so bizarre.
Doom Patrol?
God, yeah, what is that's just like
I don't know.
Brendan Fraser.
Oh man.
But yeah. I always liked Cyborg more as part of the Teen Titans than as the Justice League. But, if they do bring in the Green Lantern, I hope it's Jon Stewart Green Lantern because he's been part of the Justice League a lot longer than Hal Jordan. And that's something I didn't like is when Green Lantern came out, it was the Hal Jordan Green Lantern. So then all this marketing sort of exploded and they had all this Justice League merch and it was using Hal Jordan. And I was like, this feels like a disservice to Jon Stewart's Green Lantern. But,
right.
Yeah. So Justice League is not good. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do not recommend, like, not even if you're curious.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, this is where we're introduced to Amber Heard as Mira. What do y'all think of her?
We'll get into that in Aquaman.
Okay. I thought she was better in Aquaman than she is here.
I think the opposite. But she has like no time in this, so I guess it doesn't really. There's not much comparison, but we'll get to it. But all right, well, out of 5 stars for Justice League, I'll go 2.
I don't know, like half 2.
Yeah, I like that. I like the I'm rich joke. It's pretty good.
That's not worth 2 stars.
And I don't mind the white stripes Aquaman scene as well.
I have to give it a half. I did not have any fun.
Yeah,
watching this movie.
0.
Nice.
Just no stars.
Okay. So, all right, well, moving on.
Not available.
Yeah. Moving on to Aquaman, released in December of 2018. And so this one is directed by James Wan and stars.
Choice.
Yeah. Stars Jason Momoa, Amber Heard, Willem Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Dolph Lundgren. Yeah. What is he in? Oh, yeah, that's right. He plays one of the
Amber Heard's father.
Yeah. Nicole Kidman. And this one grossed 1.147 billion against a budget of 160 to 200 million. So pretty successful.
That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty successful.
It's the first DC movie to break $1 billion.
Yeah.
Before that, the highest was what, like 600 million or something?
Suicide Squad grossed like seven something.
That's crazy.
Wonder Woman did in the 8s, didn't it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Wonder Woman was in like 800 something. So
wild.
But yeah, this one also received pretty strong reviews from I'd say most critics, and so it was pretty. I guess most people were expecting a disaster, and they felt like it didn't really go into that territory. But what do y'all think of Aquaman? Okay, well, all right. I'll start off. So when I saw it in the theater, I thought it was the worst movie of all time. I rewatched it on 4K just a couple of days ago, and I still, it's not a complete train wreck, but it's not good for me. I think I like most other DC movies more than this. While I don't mind James Wan in The Conjuring and stuff, his direction where the camera is constantly orbiting all around, it's going through walls, going through all these different things. It just it takes me so out of the movie, and the movie is so bloated and long, and there's so much blue CG and floating hair and fake bodies that after a while I really tune it out.
Did James Wan do Saw as well?
The first one, yes, he did. And he did Furious 7 as well.
I mean, he's got quite a resume.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty big deal now. But I don't mind Jason Momoa. I think he has at least a decent presence. But I think pretty much across the board, the performances are embarrassing. Like Amber Heard is brutal in this. And there are a couple of scenes towards the beginning I don't mind, but it's just so dull and too much CG. And lame jokes.
All right.
You have so many plot elements at play that all feel so terribly disjointed that it never really feels like a nice, big, cohesive story. Black Manta is completely pointless.
Oh, yeah.
You could have plucked him right out, and you would have had, I think, if not a better movie, at least a more efficient movie, and therefore a better movie.
Well, Paul, you don't get the if you don't have that, you don't get the 1980s training montage or the preparation montage where he's like getting himself ready. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. But
well,
no,
you know, I'm all for trying to be as comic accurate as you can, but that helmet was just downright silly.
Yeah, that was bad.
The costuming around some of the soldiers with him.
Yeah. And you also get the I'm gonna need a bigger helmet joke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so bad.
Jason Momoa, I think, I call it Hayden Christensen syndrome, where when he's not talking, he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
When he's like just doing things without speaking, he seems right in the scene. And then the moment that like he needs to do something dialogue driven, acting driven, it starts to get a lot more wishy-washy.
Yeah, like the opening narration. The opening narration is brutal.
Yeah. And you know that final battle is kind of all over the place. It's big, but like I don't care because they haven't really. There doesn't seem to be like the right amount of stakes for it for me. It just seems like two really massive CG fish armies battling it out. Patrick Wilson, I think, should just stop doing movies like this. I think he's better off in smaller budget things. He's done a few like big budget things, and he always seems to be a little bit lost in them.
Yeah, he was weird in Watchmen.
I don't mind him in Watchmen, actually.
I mean, I don't mind it. It's just, as Paul said, he seems a little lost.
Yeah.
He's like Forrest Whitaker in big budget action movies, just completely
like Rogue
lost.
One.
Yeah, like I don't know what you're doing, buddy, but I guess keep doing it. This is a Battlefield Earth. You can tone it down some.
Yeah.
So it's I think still better in a sense than some of their other offerings, but I also would not go as far as to. I've seen people try and compare it to, Black Panther, and I'm like,
no way. No. Well, Jacob, you're on the opposite end of us, so what do you think?
I don't know. Maybe maybe it's just because I watched this right on the heels of watching like Venom and like a few other movies. It was a period of a couple days last week where I was off work and I had nothing to do, and I think I watched like 14 to 15 movies in like a 48-hour period.
Jesus Christ!
So I just sort of just kept scrolling through and just so I watched Aquaman during that time, and I think maybe I was just in that mindset where I was like, man, this is dumb, and I love it. And
I agree with that. There are times where I'm like, this is so stupid, but I love it. Like where he's like, I'm Black Manta. Like, I mean, it's stuff like that that's not bad. But
Black Manta has always been one of my favorite Aquaman villains. Aquaman is my favorite DC superhero. He always has been since I was a kid. Him and Green Lantern. But I think, as I said, there's probably a better Aquaman than Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is way too
wooden
football quarterback that's not passing any of his classes. It's just like,
well said.
He's the dude bro hero.
Yeah, which is weird because Aquaman has a lot more, like, Aquaman the character has a lot more like prestige about him.
Yeah.
Like, when he's the king of Atlantis, and then before that he's more of like a, I don't know, I feel like Jason Momoa doesn't exactly fit. Black Manta, completely wasted. Black Manta's always been my favorite villain of Aquaman's, and DC once again tries to shove two villains into its movie, Ocean Master and Black Manta. I think the plot would have flowed a lot better with Ocean Master, and save Black Manta for the sequel or something.
Yeah.
But that whole setup at the beginning with Black Manta that leads you to believe that Black Manta is going to be the main villain of the movie, but then he disappears.
Yeah.
Until the middle of the movie, when there's that weird deal going on between him and Ocean Master, and he gets all that Atlantean technology, and then he's suddenly a super genius that knows the ins and outs of Atlantean technology and can take it apart and build something with it.
Water-powered laser gun.
There aren't many worse lines than when Patrick Wilson goes like, "Don't call me the king of Atlantis, call me Ocean Master."
Yeah.
That stuff is so bad. Whoever thought that was a good idea to call? No, let's change it to Ocean Master.
Ocean
like
Master.
so bad.
That's
yeah,
it's a callback to the the original.
I know.
Original comic.
I know,
books,
Jacob.
Man. It's stupid.
Yeah, but in terms of the like caring about the Black Manta character or trying to kind of get behind him, which is something that I like a lot. The opening action sequence where you meet him and his father, they almost like we're supposed to get behind. He's angry at Aquaman for letting his father, who's like a military contractor, kind of murderer guy, that he didn't save him. It's like we're supposed to care about this murderer guy. It's just that stuff like that is very weak.
You're supposed to be rooting for a pirate, yeah.
Yeah.
Who we never really see the home life of. We only see him in his piracy.
And I do like the action in the movie. The one good scene that Black Manta gets where he's fighting Aquaman in like Sicily or something.
That's not bad.
He that's good, but then Aquaman like kicks him into the ocean, and then it's like, thanks for the memories, Black Manta, but like and the Ring of Fire fight between Patrick Wilson's character and Aquaman.
Yeah.
That's cool, the whole trident fighting. I liked that. But the third act battle, just that's when I was just like leaning back in my seat, like, man, this is just, I can't even process what's going on. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy stupid. I love it's bring it at me.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming at me. It's just I'm drinking it in.
Yeah.
Like,
veering off really quick. Jason Momoa's father, the actor, is so bad. He is my least favorite.
Jango Fett?
He's my least favorite part of this movie.
What do you think about Nicole Kidman?
She's not bad.
They pull a like Ant-Man and the Wasp, where like she's still alive.
I mean, I'm sure she had a huge payday for it, but I mean, she's in it so little that
it literally almost played out exactly the same. Where like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, when they find out that that her mother is still alive, where they go and she's been surviving on her own she even has like the mask, and I was like, this is almost exactly the same.
Yeah,
and no, I liked Nicole Kidman though.
She's fine.
Aquaman, I think, definitely even more so than like Wonder Woman, feels like it's cribbing on not just one Marvel movie, but like a lot of different Marvel movies. It's like a little Thor, it's a little Black Panther, it's a little Ant-Man, Wasp.
The gladiator or the fight in this, the Colosseum type fight, just reminded me of Ragnarok.
Yeah,
and so and not in a good way. Like I would much rather watch Ragnarok.
Much rather watch Hulk suplex Fenrir.
Oh yeah, right on, man. Yeah.
Who voiced like the giant crab octopus tentacle beast that was like guarding the
Julie Andrews?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mary Poppins.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. That was a big paycheck, I promise. As she recorded her lines on a laptop.
Yeah. Seriously.
Just like, how do you feel about playing a tentacle monster?
It's like here, one word, or like, 2 words. It's
How do you want to play something that looks vaguely like Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Connecting pieces together felt weird sometimes, because it took me a long time to figure out when Aquaman busts up through the ground riding that giant monster. I was like, is that the same thing? Like is that the monster that was guarding the trident? I was like, couldn't figure it out. I was like, is that it?
Yeah.
But then, I think it probably was meant to be, but just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think that one, Black Manta ends up kind of having Jared Leto treatment in Suicide Squad, where it needed to be more or none.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I think that you have like 2 different objectives for our villain and our lead. Aquaman's after the trident so that he can be like the king, as Orm tries to like unite clans. And I feel like if you had given each of them like the same objective, it would have even ratcheted the stakes up a little bit more for me. in that final battle to where I would have been more ingrained in what was happening.
The deserter clan in the desert.
Yeah,
man.
The desert ocean.
Yeah. What do you think of the line where he goes, redheads, gotta love them? Do you like that one?
Oh, yeah. That red hair.
Blonde.
Yeah.
That red hair is bad.
See, I don't mind the look of Mira in this. I just think Amber Heard is not good. And I want to like her. It's just, she's just so phony.
I think I read a review that said the best and worst thing about Aquaman is Amber Heard in a jellyfish dress.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. That was bad. And especially with all of the stuff that's coming out with her in the press now with Johnny Depp just makes me dislike her even more. So
yeah, it's a crazy situation.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. I don't mind where she chomps on the roses. Not bad.
Oh yeah, and then Aquaman does too.
Yeah.
Aquaman steals Orm's girl.
Yeah.
Mr. Steal Yo Girl 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else about Aquaman?
I think it was just a good day when I watched it, and that's why I rated it as high as I did. But I don't know. Maybe I'd drop a star off it if I watched it again.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Paul? Anything else?
Nah, not really.
Yeah. All right. Well, out of 5 stars, it's a light 2.5 for me.
I had initially rated it 4, but I'd probably drop it to a 3 upon a rewatch. But maybe I won't. You know,
yeah,
maybe I'll.
It could go up, right?
Maybe I'll live my own life.
Yeah, could go up to a 4.5. You know, you never know.
Yeah,
Paul.
I like a 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can end off. Jacob didn't get a chance to see this one, but we'll end off with Shazam, which just came out in April of 2019, like we said. This one is directed by David Sandberg and stars Zachary Levi, Mark Strong, Asher Angel, Jamon Hansu. I guess that's how you say his name.
Jamon Hansu, yeah.
Right. And at least as of what's today, the 27th of April, it's grossed 328.8 or 0.6 million against a budget of somewhere between 60 and 100 million. Although it's still probably going to be in theaters for at least a few more weeks. So it's got some more time to build up its gross. But this one, I guess similar to Aquaman, got pretty strong reviews across the board from critics.
Yeah.
And I actually probably wouldn't have gone to see it if we weren't doing this show. I don't think, at least not in theaters. When I saw the trailers for it and when I heard it was announced, I was just kind of, not really digging it. And
just like DC pushing more into that like comedy category.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh.
And I think it's all right. I definitely don't love it as much as I think critics do, or maybe some audiences do even. But it's fun. It's just kind of disposable, but it's clearly just filling in the space before the next big DC hero. But
yeah,
like an Ant-Man type scenario or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I liked how much smaller it was. I like that they didn't shy away from some of the weirder elements of the Shazam character. I mean, they pretty much put it all out there. They've got Jaimin Hansu in a weird Methuselah wig and beard,
yeah,
and a red robe with a lightning bolt on it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think I liked it more the deeper into the movie I got. That opening sequence where you're trying to be, I guess, interested in Thaddeus.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care too much about it, partially because I found a lot of the acting and writing to be pretty subpar. Here's a little fun fact for you. The dad is the very theatrical mad scientist who makes Bane in Batman and Robin with George Clooney.
Oh, a little tie in there. Cool.
Yeah. So I didn't enjoy the opening too much, and I liked it more the deeper into it I got. I would call the movie just overall clunky. Like, if I had to describe its negative aspects, it would just be clunky.
Yeah.
But because it is so small scale, like, I find it just sort of, I guess, refreshing, because I think every DC movie has tried to be massively epic.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy that it was a little bit smaller. I liked it. It's not perfect, you know. Its moral and theme or is a little simplistic. I think Zach Levi does a pretty good job in it, but it was okay.
Yeah.
I liked it. It's better, kind of like with Wonder Woman, it's better than a lot of Marvel movies. It's worse than a lot of Marvel movies. It's better than a lot of DC movies. Much like Wonder Woman, I would probably say Shazam and Wonder Woman are my favorite two of them all. If only just because, like, there's not as much writing on Shazam. It's allowed to just kind of be its own little thing.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they're going to do with this character either.
Oh, I don't either. Yeah. So
I think it's going to be like a Deadpool situation.
It felt like Deadpool almost, but yeah, it's fine. I'm not crazy about the look of the character. I mean, I get that it's supposed to be kind of a spoof of superheroes, but I don't know. It just didn't do much for me. I mean, Zachary Levi, for the most part, was pretty good. I didn't always buy him as trying to be the like adult version of
a kid.
Yeah. But I think for the most part, he pulls it off pretty well. And I mean, it's the humor didn't really do much for me, but not a lot of superhero comedy does. But yeah, it's just definitely one of the most not offensively bad in any way or noticeably wrong with it. Just kind of leaving the theater a little like, it does the job, but that's about it. So,
it's not one that I feel like I'll revisit often. You know, I might, and I probably won't even buy it when it first comes out. If I, I'm walking around Target or Best Buy or something and I see like Shazam on discount, I might be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And pick it up. But I don't think it'll be one that like I revisit a lot. I've got a friend who's got this idea that they're just going to lean into all of the weirder characters and try and build the Justice League off of that. And I don't know that I see this character working in that, especially since you are working with younger actors.
Yeah, I don't either.
And you can't really like stretch it out that long.
I think DC could benefit a lot from starting over.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit late in the game, but clean slate, I think they could benefit from that.
Yeah, for sure.
Spoilers, I guess, for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Don't worry about spoiling it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you're okay with it, Jim.
I really enjoyed the rest of his family getting powers at the end.
Yeah, I like that too.
That was a big highlight for me, and I actually thought that was it Megan Good, who was the older version of Darla?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought she did a great job at being an adult with a child,
for sure,
as a soul. I liked the little nod to Big. I love Mark Strong, but I feel like he constantly gets put into these villain roles.
I know.
They're one note. And I'm like, come on, my man.
Stretch
Get
your...
a better age and fire whoever you have.
Yeah,
Is he the villain in the Sherlock Holmes?
In the first one, yeah.
First Sherlock Holmes? Yeah.
And in Kick-Ass, the first Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
So, I think he's great. But again, like, the Savannah character is just kind of fine. It's good. It is very much like Ant-Man, where it almost feels, not to like belittle Ant-Man, I enjoy Ant-Man a lot, but it feels kind of like filler. It's decent filler, but it feels like stories between stories.
Yeah, and I will probably go see it.
I would give it a watch. I liked it. It is. You get the sense of how small it is really with what the finale is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what movie does like adults like with like as children really well is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's actually worth
Jack
a watch.
Black does a great job with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Dwayne Johnson, Karen Gillan, Jack Black, and Kevin Hart all do a really great job, actually. I buy that those are kids.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a look.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more to say about it. It's just kind of it checks the marks, but or the bullet points, but checks the boxes. Thank you.
Angel Asher, out of all of the child actors, I felt was probably the weakest. Little
Yeah.
Shazam, little Billy Batson.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian Brody, I actually really enjoyed as grown-up Freddy.
Yeah, he's got to come back, Adrian Brody. He's been having some rough
Sorry, not Adrian
years.
Brody,
Yeah.
Adam Brody. There we go.
Oh, yeah. But yes,
everyone would have been really confused otherwise.
Hashtag bring back Adrian Brody, you know. But yeah. All right. Well, Jacob, anything you want to add? No.
I like Zachary Levi. I'm interested to see how he plays this character.
Yeah.
I like him in Chuck.
Yeah. I still haven't seen that. Yeah, I got to check that
It's a
out.
good show. I haven't seen him in anything since. So.
He was in Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok as Fandral.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Cool.
That's right.
Cool. All right. Well, out of 5 stars, Paul?
I don't know, like a soft 3, I guess.
Yeah. I'm about the same.
I'll probably give it a 4.
Okay. All right, man.
Speculative guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that about brings us to the end of the show. Well, first off, what's y'all's favorite of the movies that we've talked about? What would you say is the best?
Probably Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I would say the same. Well, good. No debate there.
No.
And what's the worst?
Justice League.
Justice League.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough, man.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I guess that about does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you so much again for downloading and for donating, and I hope that you've kept with us through this just epic show. And don't forget to check out the weekly podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. And we'll definitely be doing some more, especially if y'all are game, some more superhero bonus shows or something like that. You know, we'll figure it out.
Oh yeah.
You're always welcome.
We're doing an in-game show next weekend.
Yeah, we'll be looking to be doing that. But Paul, it's great to see you, man. It's been a while since we've chatted.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I had a great time chatting about all this, you know.
Yeah, and finally we could get it all out on the table, you know, the DC.
Yeah.
You get Jacob Swafford have a big Coen Brothers show, a reunion.
Oh my God. Coen Brothers.
Yeah, that'd be it.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
Jeff Adams on Skype.
Oh no. Yeah. But yeah,
I think he knows how to work a computer.
Yeah, I don't know if he does.
Ask him what he thinks about Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh yeah, I'm curious about that. Yeah, but well, Jacob, thanks to you, man, as well, for taking the time, and well, I'm sure we'll see you again sometime soon before you move away. But yeah, guys, have a great day. All right, and I'll see you soon.
Yep.
All right, we'll see y'all later.
Good to see you, Paul.